Hello and you welcome to One-on-One Tourism and Business Africa Unfiltered Conversation. My name is Frank Media, and like always, I like to remind you to keep signing up with us on www.clivina.com. Believe me, we exist to connect you with the entire universe. All right, today we'll be discussing why proper data and real factual information are key to tourism growth in Africa. And my guest is Alain St Ange. All right, he is the Seychelles former Minister for Tourism, Civil Aviation, Ports and Marine, and also the head of St. Ange's Tourism Consultancy. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your program.
Yeah, good to have you here. All right, I know I've said one or two things about you, but definitely there are other things that we wouldn't know that you want us to tell our audience. So could you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm born and bred in the Seychelles, and I had a whole life in one industry only, and it is tourism. I've worked in tourism since my schooling in Germany, and then tourism and marketing in France. I returned to Seychelles and been employed in tourism right through my career. Ended up being the Minister of Tourism at the end, and Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Ports and Marine, which closed the chapter that I had in my working life.
Beautiful residence, sir. All right, let's go to this. Let's extract word tourism as it stands. How do you rate it?
Well, Seychelles has done very well in its tourism industry. We only had an airport in the 70s, 72 to be exact, 71 it opened, 72 the first plane started commercializing the islands for tourism. We've had a very progressive approach to tourism because we depend on tourism. Before independence, we were an agricultural-based destination, and then we became a tourism destination in its own rights. And we depend on tourism, we need tourism, and we survive by tourism, which is the pillar of the economy. I think Africa as a whole has the ability to be the new tourism continent for the future. But Africa has a lot to do to achieve these objectives, if that is the objective we set for the whole of Africa. But we need, as the 54 states, to rally around, to find new ways to be innovative, and to come out with new approaches that will entice people, the discerning travelers from east to west, north to south, to visit our continent. Because we have it all. Sun, sea, sand, forests, safaris, culture, lots of culture. But how do we depict it? How do we showcase it? Is the challenge that we today have.
Right. You are a tourism expert, and you agree with me that we have the sector has so many challenges affecting you. What would you think of? What are those challenges affecting these sectors? I mean, as an expert, what are your recommendations in curbing these excesses?
Okay, Africa has some natural challenges. Obviously, we get droughts, we get heavy rains, we get sometimes there are health issues that affects one town or one village, but the world numbers it on the whole of Africa, suffering from one epidemic. And it is not the case. We need to be more mindful and to rewrite our own narrative. And the narrative should be stating, yes, we have a problem in this village, in this small village, and we are doing our best to contain it. So we have to rewrite our own narrative for Africa by Africa. The second major challenge I think we have is the political side. We need to be realistic that visitors come to visit us. They've got other places to go, but we want to entice them to Africa. So how do we make it the best possible continent that is enticing visitors to our shores? Once we are realistic about this, then we work towards it. Are we shy of our own cultures? Are we shy of our people? Are we putting our cultures in the forefront? Are we putting our people in the forefront? These are the things that will help us disseminate to the world what we are as a continent, what we are as different states, so that the people will then embark on this process of working with us. We also know that we need partners, be it the tour operating partners of the world, be it the airlines of the world, that'll get to us. But once you've landed, let's say you've landed in Nigeria or in Ghana, where I'm doing some consultancy work, what next? How do we move further afield? The one-stop shop of saying somebody will fly in from Canada, let's say, or from Australia to visit one African state. Does he stop there? Or do we allow him to visit 2 or 3 stops in neighboring states to make this more appealing for this visitor? It's a long-haul travel. Since COVID, airline costs have gone up. And we all know the air tickets have gone up a lot. So how do we entice the visitor to make this long haul into our countries and then offer him the neighboring countries? I know with Ghana, we are now looking, and not me, the Minister of Ghana for Tourism is looking, and I'm the one consulting on that matter, is to associate Ghana with 3 or 4 countries around it to make this stop into Ghana a stop of 4 or 5 countries together. So, but this is a challenge. You have visa issues, you have other issues to work at. But it is possible. If we had this approach in 10 different regions of Africa to say we will offer more than 1 country together. Seychelles, we've done this in my era. We formed the Indian Ocean Vanilla Islands, which has 6 island states together. Madagascar, Mauritius, Comoros, Mayotte, Seychelles, and Mauritius. We all grouped together and launched the Vanilla Islands. In a 2 operators program or in the airline structure, Seychelles is seen twice. It's seen as Seychelles independently, and it is seen as part of the Vanilla Islands. So we get 2 bites of the same cake. And this is what Africa needs to do today when airlines are expensive, very clearly, very expensive post-pandemic. How do we make it more affordable for the visitors to come to us and discover more of what we are?
So that's a good one, sir. You just mentioned in South Africa and your involvement recently in Accra. Now, where you have to talk about in the African Tourism Research Network, all right? So what was that council all about?
Okay, the consultancy with Ghana, it was advertised in Ghana, and I have a press friend in Ghana who sent the advert to me and said, why don't you apply to that? Your expertise could benefit Ghana and Africa, the continent. And I said, okay, let me have a look at it. And then the first time I didn't get through it. So the advert was on the papers in Ghana. And again, another press friend sent it to me and said, have you seen this? Why don't you apply? So finally I did. It was a bidding process. I sent in my CV, and then we had an interview virtually. And then finally, after months, I was told, you've been successful, and now let us work with the Minister of Ghana. It's a short-term consultancy. It's one of the very short-term one. It'll end in September. It's a 6-month program. It is more to highlight 3 topics. One is to advise on a possible consolidation of their tourism training facility to train people in the hospitality industry. The second one is to look at a regional body so that Ghana and a few of their states around them can work as one in remarketing the area, not just Ghana, but Ghana and its surrounding states. And the third one is to relook at repositioning Ghana, the tourism industry of Ghana, to increase its visibility, to ensure that it is on the hit list of anyone looking at Africa. So this is the mission that I'm working on with the team. They've got a very good team in Ghana. And sitting with the team and trying to work through for the few months that I've left with this project. But I think what Ghana is doing can be done by the whole of Africa, north to south, east to west. East Africa has virtually a group of countries that work together. They tried it in the past to work in a cohesive approach. But this is needed today, more so today than ever before.
So right, sir. Now, you were such as a former minister for tourism, all right? And the ideas you have now, obviously, you must have tested it in your own country. All right, so can you share with us one success story you had with using of these ideas? Okay,
when I became Minister of Tourism and Culture initially, the idea of government, when I discussed it with the president, was to put not just our sun, sea, and sand assets in the forefront. Yes, they are unique selling points of Seychelles. But I said just that, what whole ground? We need a bit more. We need the people to be involved with us. And the people is culture. There's no culture without people. So this is when we said, let's have the Ministry of Tourism and Culture so that we bring the culture of our people in the forefront. But what is culture? Yes, music. Yes, dancing. Yes, food. Yes, your handicrafts and everything else. Because when you bring in culture, you are opening this new dimension of tourism to say that it is more than just hotels and the little tour operator buses that cart you to your hotel. It is how do you bring your local food into the hotel? How do you bring the people to be the frontline team in your hotel? This is also culture, where the person who arrives from New York checks in a hotel and says, oh, I'm greeted by somebody, I can ask them for the information that I want. A foreigner would never do it as well as a person of the soil. So we tried hard to do that. The second one was to issue a bold statement to the Seychelles tourism industry and to the people of Seychelles to say, let us claim back our tourism industry. It belongs to us. It doesn't mean that you don't have foreign people investing. Actually, they come in, they respect you, they work alongside you. But to encourage the people of the islands to be themselves involved in the industry, I'll never forget, we registered some 200-300 small hotels. In the first couple of months, they were all operating, but under the carpet. They were not declaring any taxes, they were not advertising publicly, but they were taking in guests. So we had an amnesty through planning authority to say everybody that comes forward now that's running an establishment, we will visit them, we will guide them to become better, and then we will license them. Today they are all operating, they are all happy with it, they play their parts, they help the economy because they are part of an industry. The third point, and the big statement that we made in that time, tourism is not just an activity that you join in casually. It's an industry. And as an industry, we need to get behind it fully. So to be able to do that, we launched our hotel school and expanded it with the help of different foreign banks. We got a proper hotel school here that runs, that trains people to the level of diploma so that they can then become general managers of their respective hotels. So we needed to break this ice. And I often say that we cannot have an omelette if you don't break the egg. We needed to invest in it. We needed to show the young people that this industry is for Seychelles, but it is also for each and every Seychellois, and we can all participate in it.
Well, that's beautiful. Now, do you think these your innovations can be implemented in other African countries, and how easy it is to really do that?
Well, you need the will of the government firstly. If the government has the will to do it, yes, it can. And I am sure, with my experience having been in office for many years, to sit with the Minister of Tourism or the head of state of a country that wants to empower its people to get involved in tourism, it can be done. You need the government will, and then the people to appreciate that this is an industry you work at it. It doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't fall from heaven that we will get tourists. The tourists will be fed by themselves. It's an industry that is round the clock, that you work round the clock at it, and then you make a good go of it. Is everything rosy in the whole of Africa? No, of course not. We would be fooling ourselves if we said yes. But can it get better? Yes, it can. I travel in different countries of Africa, and I deliver speeches often. I'm a guest speaker that is called on to deliver addresses. And often my message is, let us believe in ourselves. Let us then find a way, through the government as the facilitator, to empower the people of the continent to find themselves in that industry. It is the one industry that puts money directly in the pockets of all its citizens if we do it right. You can have small industries, big industries, handicrafts, fruit vendors, all that is tourism at the end of the day. But we need to open the door, bring everybody on board, and then everybody succeeds and everybody's happy.
Well, that's beautiful. I can actually relate to that. All right, St. Ange, we'll take a short break now, and when we'll return, we will continue with the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Let's sell on your behalf. If your item sells on our web shop, you pay a 10% commission plus the transaction fees, and you get the rest. Register now at www.shop.clevenard.com. Start uploading your product and services. We can really sell it on your behalf so you can carry on working on the things important to you. Are you looking to sell any type of product or service and you want to avoid the hassle involved? Selling can be an arduous and time-consuming process. At Clevenard Super Shop, we will be happy to take over the workload of promoting or selling your products or services. All you need to do is to register at www.shop.clevenard.com, enter your shop or vendor information, and then start uploading your product and services. We will do the selling. Now, be ready to get more sales and awareness. Start making more money from your business with Clevenard Super Shop by partnering with us today.
All right, Stu, welcome back. And we are still with Alain St Ange, and we are discussing why proper data and real factual information are key to tourism growth in Africa. It's all right. So you are, is on record that you are the president of the African Tourism Board. Right. So what is the main focus of the board?
Okay, I was
No,
go ahead.
Okay, please answer.
I was the founding president of the African Tourism Board. After a couple of years in office, we passed it, and it's now Mr. Cutler from South Africa who's heading it. Even though I sit with him, I am still there. You cannot hold an office for too long, otherwise you become too relaxed into it and you don't make much achieve. So I believed after being the founding president of it, it was time to move on and to work, not to leave it alone, but to keep being part of it. He messages me regularly, we chat regularly, and I think we still can do work together. But it is important that this body that was formed, the African Tourism Board, and it is non-political. It was formed with the idea of rallying tourism boards of Africa and private sector of Africa together so that one meets the other. And this is a very high bar that we tried to do. To bring all tourism boards of Africa together is not easy. You've got the Francophones, you've got the Portuguese people, you've got the English speakers, and then North, South, East, and West, you have the different cultures that come on board. But this tall order was set to show that there is nothing that cannot be achieved if we want to achieve it, and we are genuine in wanting to achieve it. The appeal that we've made is for the African Union to now have a desk dedicated to tourism. It is one of the pillars of Africa, this tourism industry. As much as we have oil, timber, diamond, and gold, we have a people's industry that is called tourism. And we must have a dedicated desk at the African Union to say, this people's industry that brings people not just to be the low-lying workers of the industry, that can partake in the industry as investors, as people that manage it. We need to have a desk. And I think the success of Africa and its tourism industry is when the African Union will come on board and say, let us meet the African Tourism Board professionals and how to have a desk. There is a desk that is involved with other industries. It's not good enough. It is the people's industry and the only people's industry of the continent, and we need to have a dedicated desk for tourism.
So thank you so much. And let me get into this, the main question now, okay, the main topic of discourse. When you say proper data and real factual information are growth to tourism growth in Africa, what do you actually mean by that? What is the role of proper data and then factual information in developing the tourism sector? Okay,
this was coined by an entrepreneur of Ghana. He launched, it was him. I was called to do the launching with him. And I was called to deliver an address. But it was Emmanuel Fripon of Ghana, who was the brainchild working with the private sector trade of Ghana to say, and they've got actually board members that come from right around Africa, including Nigeria, people that are involved with the Utali College in Kenya. Different people sit together on that board. What do they mean by having proper data? We can scream we can laugh, we can be happy and say we've got a successful industry or our industry is not too good. But what data are we using? How many people are employed in the industry? Really employed in tourism? How much money is a country making from tourism? How many visitors do we get? How many international visitors that help our airlines flourish? And how many are just across the border that comes in for shopping trips and so on? They are all tourists, but the spending power is different from one another. We need to have the proper data and then to say, this is what we are helping as an industry to keep our airport alive. This is what we are doing to ensure that the hotels and all its staff from our country are working in it. How do we have all this data if what we have can be questioned? And I think when I addressed it in front of a very august gathering, I was amazed when I listened to the speeches that were made before me for the need of factual and reliable figures that the banks, the World Bank, the IMF can all look at and say, yes, this is tourism being done in Ghana. Ghana does more than what its facts and figures are showing. But how do we correct it? And this is where I saluted Emmanuel Fripon. And I said, congratulations for what you are doing. Africa needs it as a whole. Ghana needs it today. But the rest of Africa will also need it. This right information that comes out on time, that is easily dispensed of so that people can see it. Otherwise, you have information that sits in your drawers, means nothing to the rest of the world and to each and every single inhabitant of the continent. So we need to find ways to be innovative in getting the right figures and data out to the government. You get arrivals, yes, by airports, but they come also through different means. So how do you collate all this? How do you then put it into a way that is disseminated?
And again, whose responsibility is it to make the collation?
Well, we often keep saying it is government's responsibility, but is it? I think it is the people's responsibility. And this is where Ghana, I salute them for the people as a group of distinguished people moving together and saying, we will work with the government agencies will have the figures, and we will collate it in a manner, in a format that makes sense for everybody to see and to appreciate and to use. You see, if we know how many people are today involved in tourism, directly tourism in Ghana, we will be amazed. But we will be shocked probably, and we will salute the Minister of Ghana and his advisors that are based in the office in Ghana to say thank you. But we don't know. We know about this hotel employs this hotel employs that. We must get all the facts, we must get all the figures, and then disseminate it in a manner and in a format that is understood by everybody.
So in this responsibility, is that the duty of the African Tourism Board? Is there anything that the African Tourism Board has to play in this responsibility?
I think at the end of the day, yes. The African Tourism Board will rally all the tourism boards of Africa together. But before we get to the African Tourism Board, we need the Tourism Board of each of the 54 states to be empowered, to be the one that collates it from the different bodies, the statistical division, the civil aviation division, the ports, where the countries that are not landlocked, those that look from the highways when you come in through borders, through gates, to know where do they all go. So the tourism board of each country must be mandated to collect it from everybody. And then the African Tourism Board at the end, with the help of the African Union, must say we will now sit, we'll now look and appreciate what we are doing. These are good things that we are doing, but the world doesn't know that we are doing it anyway now. I think if we are able to bring out the figures in a proper way, you'll find that what is spoken about by the UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, to say that Africa gets 6% of the world travelers. It is not true. We get much more than that, but our facts and figures are not right. We get 6% that are coming in probably by the airlines that are registered to come across the borders, because they talk about border crossings. When you enter a country, you become a tourist. But the millions that cross into Africa from different ways and means that are not recorded. All these boats that arrive with visitors staying for months on shores. There are yachts, ocean-going yachts that are docking in different ports of Africa. Are we all counting them? Are we really looking at them? But it's not a finger-pointing exercise. It is to say, for the next 10 years, how do we achieve it? And my suggestion for Africa is to get a group, and you have some excellent people. I mean, in Nigeria, you've got an excellent man, Ikeji. And you've got Abigail, who's heading another organization. All of these people coming together will steamroll a way of putting people in the forefront and analyzing what we can do. I mean, in South Africa, Dimakatso, there are such good people in Africa. But how do we bring them all together to sit around one table with the African Union to say, okay, we have our expertise. Let us now move Africa forward.
Is that right? But I think that should be the word of the responsibilities and duties of the African Tourism Board. You agree with me there?
Yes.
In bringing them together?
Yes, I think that there's a lot that we can still, we did a lot, but we can still do a lot. The African Tourism Board at the end, if we recognize it, but who recognizes it? It's our respective states or through the African Union. Through the African Union, it becomes easier because you get like a funnel aspect, and it says from the top, we are mandating the African Tourism Board with its headquarters in South Africa to be the body that will collate everything within their structure. Then it's easier. If you leave it from the bottom up, the funnel is too wide. And when you've got a wide funnel, it's very difficult to assimilate anything. You will keep playing in there at the bottom, but when it comes from the top, it is grassroots, yes. But who dictates or calls on the grassroots to be doing it? There must be a leader, and the leader must be through our main organization that rallies the states together, and this is the African Union.
That's a great one. My next question is this. All right, I know in the course of our discussion, you've said one or two things about it, but I just want to be specific about it. Like you talk about the reopening of the world borders. What is the place of tourism in that concept?
You see, the borders, we have to be realistic. Where do we get our tourists from? There are source markets for tourism. When we know these source markets are the real tourism source markets for our respective country, and we don't all have the same source markets. Some have different ones. Some are different and in different order of priority. Once we know that, we need then to facilitate how do we attract these people to our shores. But opening our own border at the same time, somebody enters in Accra tomorrow, how do we get them into Abuja? How do we say there will be a domestic bus in the air if you want to? It's not just, we follow too much the trend of one stop with the airlines. It's good and it's bad at the same time. We must find a way to have a bus in the air that links Accra to Abuja, Abuja to another city around the place, so that these are domestic setups. We have airlines that are domestic airlines, operating low-cost airlines, but amongst our states, we need more than that. I know one country is trying hard to get a second airline, a second flight of a company to come in and then to go on to a third destination. Yes, it's good already because you're opening the link with a third country. We need to do more. How do we have, and this is where I come back with my tourism desk at the African Union. If they were the coordinating body, they could say to different airlines, and today I saw on breaking news that one country and Nigeria has a bit of a dilemma about landing rights in one country. And it's not the topic that I will cover here, but this should not be a fight between two countries or two civil aviations. We must have this body that looks at tourism and access, air access, so that we facilitate, we become the facilitators for our respective governments to be able to work. You see, we need to untie the hands of our people. And when I say people, it's our governments. They also have their hands tied with the complexity of rules and borders. How do we work with each head of state, then each of the tourism ministers? Often you'll also have different civil aviation ministers. Seychelles, I worked hard to get tourism and civil aviation in the one basket, one portfolio, because it simplified my life. Otherwise, when I'm preaching tourism in that country, civil aviation is not giving a landing right to a plane from that country. It complicates life. So I said to the president, it is much better to have one. But it doesn't.
Yeah, but shouldn't that be the responsibility of IATA, the body that governs the aviation industry?
But IATA is non-political. IATA is a bit like the UNWTO. They work with the elected governments that are there. But you need somebody to come to be that partner, political partner. The African Union is political because you are dealing with elected bodies and you elect the heads of the African Union. I think the African Union desk that would do tourism and civil aviation one day, and even maybe the cruise ship ports of Africa together, to facilitate, to be the facilitator, to open the doors for Africa. And if that is done, which has much dynamism as we do for mining and oil and everything else, we will find that tourism will flourish much more. I'm not saying that what is being done is not good, but can it be better? Yes, it can be better. And it's better when it's dedicated. And you have some important, good people across Africa. I know some colleagues of mine in the past that were ministers of tourism in different parts of Africa. That would be ideal to fill in a shoe today at the African Union. They're much younger than me, would fill in a shoe at the African Union to say, yes, let's open the door for tourism in Africa.
Mr. I thank you so much. We'll take another short break here, and when we'll come back, we'll continue with the conversation. Don't go away, audience.
Clevenard in Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard in Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com.
Welcome back. It is still Unfiltered Conversation on Clevenard TV. At this juncture, I want to remind you, if you are yet to sign up with us, please do so on www.clevenard.com. All right. So it is on record that Seychelles is the only African country with biometric borders. All right. So what does that mean, and then what effect does it have on the tourism sector?
You see, tourists like the simplest approach of entering a country and being able to visit a neighboring country. The simplified version of movement is what pleases tourists. We can't do everything tourists want. But the more we will simplify access across borders, you see today, and I think at a while between Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, you could move quite happily. That is facilitating tourists. Between Seychelles, Mauritius, we facilitate tourists. They don't need visas in between us. Not that you need a visa to come to Seychelles, there's none. Everybody can come. So you simplify life of tourists. When you make it easy, you find that it is appealing and they can plan. And I think the trends today is last minute bookings are being done more and more. People are taking, I suppose it's the economic format of Europe, where people save and say, okay, I've got enough now, I will go, and I'll go this week. Long ago, it was pre-planned long time before. But nowadays, I was reading the trends recently, it is a lot of last minute bookings being done. And when you do last minute, I need to be able to encourage you to visit next door to me. Somebody who is in Abuja can get to Ghana. But then we need to be able to have the air access. We need to be able to ensure that between the two countries, the formalities you've entered into one is applicable to the other. The more we will do that, the more buoyant our tourism industry of Africa will be.
All right, you've obviously spoken well, and you actually know what exactly you are doing. No wonder you were a former tourism minister. All right, now, for you now, as somebody that experience that have been in the system, what future strategies and initiations or innovations, all right, are there for improving world tourism? What would be your recommendation?
You see, and tourism is a complex industry, very complex, because you're dealing with people that comes from different parts of the world. You don't know them, you're bringing them into your home, and your country is your home. You're bringing them into your home. Your people becomes their host. So it is complex already. How do we make this foreign person coming into our home feel at home? It is again more complex. And then we want them, because it's better for our economy, to eat what we produce, to discover our culture, to be with us and eat with us and understand us, enjoy our music, buy what we make. It is very complex. This is why regional approaches are a key to launch, to move that ball forward. If we work together in regional groups, 3, 4, 5 countries, and then you find a lot of these bodies across the continent, and then sooner or later, the continent itself becomes one. Go to a tourism trade fair today. The 4 or 5 main ones, London, Berlin, France, Italy, New York. You sit, Africa is divided the way the countries fall, sometimes alphabetically, sometimes 2 or 3 are in one hall, the rest are in another hall. If we were one, you'd enter the hall to the sound of drums, and you'll know you were entering Africa. And the call that you can make, and I often salute South Africa for this is Africa song that they played for the World Cup. And I know when we did a carnival in Seychelles, they sent a troupe out dressed in the different groups that make South Africa, Africa. You had the African South Africans, you had the whites, you had the Indian, you had different connotations of people, all dressed in different traditional cultures. And they all came onto the stage together. This is Africa, multicultural, the rainbow people they call themselves. But if Africa could have the sound of drums coming through as you enter a tourism trade fair, and the tour operators or the visitors will know we've now entered Africa. And now we discover the beauty and the might of Africa, the roaring lion, or the swimming with a dolphin, or the big game fishing, or the safari. All these things are assets. I mean, skiing in Africa, slope skiing in the snow. You don't think of it, and yet we offer it in Africa, but we don't speak about it. I mean, the royalties of Africa, the kings of Eswatini or Lesotho. Yes, I mean, we have the king of the Ashantis. If all this was embodied together and say, Africa has it all, but how do we disseminate this information? We have to rewrite our narrative, write it our way, write it for the world by us, and then decide how we sell it to the world. I think if we can do that as a people, if we can do that as a continent, our 54 states together, Africa's future is bright. But today, the way it is, we will keep on puddling along. We make ends meet, but the people are not seeing the benefits. The people will see the benefit when we are all pulling together with the one voice and the roar of the land that says, this is Africa.
And I guess that's where the concept of joining forces as regional blocks comes to play.
Totally. Totally. The blocks of Africa must play this role. We must grab our people by the hand and walk together. We can't allow the people to be grabbing us as blocks and walking with us. I think the leadership is a gift that you have. Either you're gifted to lead or you're not gifted to lead. But if you are gifted to lead, lead your people. Show them the way. I mean, we've had good leaders in Africa that have taken us through the process of liberating Africa from the colonialism past. But is that enough? No. You've taken them from the past. Let us now show them the future. Let us lead them into a better future. The might of Africa, if you look at the resources of Africa, should we have poor people in Africa? No.
Not at all.
But we still have. And when I was addressing this conference that you spoke about in Accra, and I said, we grow cocoa, and then we export the cocoa to Switzerland and everywhere else. And then it comes back to us as chocolates. And we are happy to buy this European chocolate. What does it entail to go to the factory, the owners of the factory in different parts of Europe, and say, set up in Africa. Let our people take our cacao, process it, turn it into your brand of chocolate, and then re-export it. If we are able to do this, do you understand the workforce that will benefit? Do you understand the money that stays in our country? That we're not just selling the beans, but we are selling the whole product that is finished. And this is only one of everything that we do or have in Africa. But we need to finish. In the business world, you call it value added. We collect the cacao, we dry it, we process it. Our people are doing the chain. And then finally, it gets to the factory that is owned in partnership with foreign groups. And then it's turned into the chocolate that lives us. Our planes will work, our boats will work, our people will work, and the money will stay in the country.
It's a beautiful concept, actually. All right, we are all aware that after the advent of COVID-19, almost all African airlines had one issue or the other. Not just African airlines, but even stakeholders in the tourism sector. So do you see investment in the tourism sector being able to curtail or taking care of these challenges faced by the airlines and the stakeholders?
I think COVID was an eye-opener for everybody. We would live that once, probably or twice in our lifetime. I've lived it once, and I'm not young. I've lived it once, and I see that when planes stopped coming in, we realized that there was no tourism. So tourism depends on planes. That was the first shock to the system. Where I stay on the mountainside and I look the route to the airport by the airlines, I see them flying at a distance. And there were no more planes. These big birds had stopped flying. And I realized that immediately that was an issue. The airport was closed. Taxis had moved out of it. The buses were not there anymore. We had lost that lifeline. Occasionally, you had a chartered plane that would arrive with medicine or with COVID injections at first, and then medicine, and then food. We are in the middle of an ocean. We need the planes. But the whole of Africa and the world went at a standstill. Because we had no tourists because of no airlines. Airlines also had no tourists, and so they could not fly. Even those that were opening quickly, you had no control anymore.
Exactly.
It was a disaster. Is it the time to invest in tourism? Yes. We know airlines need it. And airlines have a second mission, is to help your coordination to get your foodstuff that you produce, your flowers that you grow, out to the world. There's that trade element that comes in. So you need tourism to be working to bring the airlines, and then to take back what you're producing and to bring us also products that we need from overseas. Today we won't talk about the world, but I think Africa should need to take ownership of its respective countries and the destinations that we have for tourism. We need to take ownership of it. Do we have, I saluted this week the former South African minister who became the chairperson of South African Airways. I know him well. I know him well, and I know he works with his heart. He's got his heart for Africa. If we have more people on our continent called on to say, come and give a helping hand to Africa, don't you think sincerely that Africa, we will put round pegs in round holes and square pegs in square holes, and then everything will work better? We need to move out of partisan politics. You vote every 4 years or every 5 years, you've elected your government, and then you're going to vote in the next 5 years. So in between these 5 years, let us work to make a success of what we have. Because otherwise our people will remain poor. I've visited some villages all over Africa, and sometimes my heart breaks seeing how poor they are. Is it normal? No. We need to be human. And the human side of us will say, let us make it work. And the day we decide to make it work, you will find that the motivation of the people behind the government will change the dynamism completely. And everybody will be saying, we need it to work. And this is where today, working in silos, everybody making their own little bits, well, we miss that togetherness approach. And if I can pray on Africa, because my name being a St Ange, holy angel in one way, if I can pray for Africa is to say, let us work together. Let us bring people together, like-minded people, to join forces in what they are experts at, and let Africa succeed. It can succeed. It must succeed, because the people must stop suffering. And I think politics sometimes, it's good. I've been a politician for most of my life, and I know how divisive it is. But if we work together after the election and say, you wear that color, you wear this logo on your t-shirt, the elections have gone. Let us now be African. Let us be African at heart and work together for Africa, and in so doing for your respective country. I think we will then succeed as never before. If IATA and African Tourism Board, everybody comes together in one conference that has never been done. When I was minister, I tried to bring ministers of tourism and civil aviation into Seychelles to sit together. But then there was the start of Ebola, I think, that's deferred. Some countries could not come, and the World Tourism Organization said, no, we need everybody to be there if we're going to stand behind this. But if Africa tomorrow, again through the African Union would say, we're inviting tourism ministers of Africa and civil aviation ministers of Africa, and then those responsible for border controls, those responsible for immigration of Africa, to sit together. Let's find our challenges, let's find our preoccupations, and let's find solutions to make Africa go up with all its might, and let the roar of that land be the call that stimulates us. We would succeed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alain St Ange. You've actually taken my last question. You've answered it even before I asked the question, which is a message for the government and for all the stakeholders involved in the process of building tourism in Africa. Thank you so much for being my guest one more time, Daisy.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciated it. Lovely questions from you. Thank you.
All right, audience, you've heard it all from the man that knows all there is to the tourism sector in Africa himself. And we do hope and pray that things begin to work out well in that sector, bringing together like minds that want to work for the sources of that sector. All right, till next week, we will come your way with another guest on this program. I remain Franca, the Media. Have a blessed day.